Hey, what is happening, YouTube? Welcome back to another show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, John Miro, back with some updated information when it comes to Social Security. Congress enhancing Social Security benefits. John Larson working with Congress to act to enhance the program for the first time. Yes, we have all that dedicated news as well as Bernie Sanders information, other things that are happening. We've got updated news on inflation, things that are happening with Bidenomics. We've got a video that is loaded with information, and you know what, guys? We've got it just for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your love and support mean the world. Yes, it is late, and guys, I can tell you all about it. And guys, we literally are working on getting some things moving, and we will get all the information to you here. But there's a lot of things that are happening, and we want to make sure to keep you guys updated every single day. So guess what, guys? And yes, we are updating you, keeping you updated on this news to make sure that we have you updated. So for most of you guys know that I work a full-time job for myself, and we do all kinds of stuff to do whatever we can to get jobs done. And I got there around 8 this morning, and we left around 9 tonight with a 1-hour lunch break. So let's just say John got a work in today, and I couldn't just go to bed without giving you guys the most updated news on what is going on. So I hope you guys appreciate it. We did our research, and to make sure that we're keeping you updated. Rita, the family's doing fine. Welcome to another show. James, good afternoon, good night from Tennessee. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's dive into what's happening. Guys, you don't want to miss this information.
Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning.
Whoop, I gotta pause one of them. It is, oh man. Joel told me about this. Oh man. I almost want to call him real fast and ask him. I cannot remember. Oh man, I don't even know if he's available. Let me see. Dang it, man. Sorry, guys. I can't remember which one it is that I have to make sure is working, because it's gonna do a double reverb, and I don't want that to happen. But I also want you guys to be able to hear me. Studio mic. So I think, I don't know, Mike, might be this one.
Morning to
so I know it's that one. So maybe this one. Hey, can you guys let me know real fast if you can hear me? Hey, we got a lot of guys tuning in. Winnie the Pooh, Jessica, T Turner, Donna, Dante, Hazel. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I know it's late. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Hey guys, can you let me know if you can hear me real fast? I just want to make sure that we're good. And as you can tell, we got a new setup. Did you know what date we see a deposit in May? Okay, so Rita, we're good. Okay, let's see what happens.
Address a pertinent issue for all Americans, that being Social Security.
I think we got it.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, it's been more than 50 plus years since Congress, the only body that can, has taken action to enhance Social Security. What becomes even more confounding, Mr. Speaker, is that with 10,000 baby boomers a day becoming eligible for Social Security, Congress has not acted to enhance this program. I was talking to my good friend Jody Arrington the other day and reminding him that in his district in Texas, for example, he has 128,000 Social Security recipients and 90,000 retirees, 9,000 children 10,000 widows, 4,679 spouses, and 14,000 plus disabled workers. They haven't received a benefit enhancement in more than 50 years. And Social Security has nothing to do with the debt or deficit.
Hey guys, can you hear John B. Larson talking?
It's an earned benefit. It's fully paid for. And the increases that we're calling for, well, the president said it best. We're going to pay for those by lifting the cap on 400,000. You could have people in the audience, for example, raise their hand if they're making more than.
Okay, guys, can you let me know if you can hear him? James, yep. Okay, just want to make sure you can hear John B. Larson.
400,000. I doubt that you would find any. It's about 0.6%, but most people are astounded to learn that there's a cap and they haven't paid anything into the system.
Wow.
A system that all Americans pay into. For example, Mr. Speaker, in Tennessee, you have in
not Tennessee.
Tennessee's 8th district, 189,000 of your citizens receive Social Security benefits. 136,000 of them are retirees. 25,000 disabled people.
Wow, just in Tennessee,
4,000
guys.
spouses, and the list goes on. And here's the most important thing. Your district gets $330 million monthly that goes into your district. Now, I say this to my colleagues and good friends on the other side of the aisle who are always talking about economic development. What better economic development tool is there than for your citizens to get a payment? Nobody gets wealthy on Social Security. They haven't had an increase in more.
Hey guys, ain't that the truth? How many of you guys would say, yep, we're not wealthy, we're not rich on Social Security?
In 50 years, and this money would go right back into your district.
Yeah.
And be spent at the local grocery store, at the pharmacy, at the dry cleaners, to pay for rent or a mortgage or put gas in your automobile. The money all comes back, and Congress hasn't acted in over 50 years. Mr. Arrington says, at least he says this about Social Security 2100, the bill that we have put forward that enhances benefits across the board by 2%, that repeals WEP and GPO. You realize, Mr. Speaker, that there are more than 23 million Americans who pay taxes on their Social Security. You guys are quick to make sure that there's tax relief for billionaires. How about people who are actually working for a living and then have to pay double taxation on their Social Security? 23 million Americans. There are 5 million Americans who get below poverty level checks from the federal government, from Social Security.
It's so
even
sad.
Though they've paid in all their quarters. Why? Because Congress hasn't taken action. The only body that can. The president can't do this through executive order. The Supreme Court isn't going to act. We need to act on a bill. And as Representative Arrington says, well, I don't agree with Larson's bill. I said, well, what don't you agree with? If you got a better idea, put it forward. At least he's honest enough to say, yeah, we don't have a plan. We haven't written anything down on paper. The American people not only need a plan, what they need is help and relief in this time of global inflation. In this time that's coming forward, it's long overdue for Congress to act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Guys, that is definitely news that people have been waiting to hear on. They're wanting to say, we understand what's going on. We understand what's happening. And this is where so many people, they're like, okay, guys, when it comes to things that are happening with Social Security, it's not like you guys are getting rich, but how many people are desperately needing some increase?
Regulatory red tape coming out of the Biden administration is strangling business, especially small business, maybe the entire economy, and causing inflation. So let's talk about this. We got Steve Moore, the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, and host of More Money on WABC Radio, and Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former CBO director and now president of American Action Forum. Doug, I'm just looking at your latest report here. It gets better and better, or I mean, it gets worse and worse. You know what I mean? The final rule costs for Mr. Biden, 1.6 trillion final rules. For Mr. Trump were a minus 160 billion. So Trump's fell enormously, 160 billion. Biden's up 1.6 trillion. And then you got another one, paperwork hours, increasing, I guess, under Mr. Biden, 292 million, and Mr. Trump, 74 million. So, is there any end to this? And right to the end, they just keep piling this on? Is that what's happening?
Well, there appears to be no end to it. You know, we've kept track since day one of each of those administrations, and at the same point in the Trump administration, they had actually reduced the regulatory burden. It was something, Larry, I did not think could be done. It's one of the great accomplishments of the Trump administration. And this administration has imposed more regulatory costs in less than one full term than Barack Obama did in two, which is hard to wrap your head around. And they did almost as much in a week, $800 billion, as he did in 2 terms. So this is an onslaught of unprecedented proportions. And it's really hard on small businesses. It's hard on every business that's trying to control costs. They're going to have to pass these costs along. We don't need that in this inflationary environment. So this is a real Achilles heel for Bidenomics. This is something that isn't partisan. It's just a matter of adding up the numbers and reporting them to the public. It's a problem.
Steve Moore, I mean, I think you can argue it's blunting growth. It's also causing higher inflation. You've got a lot of regulatory inflation built in to business activity. The Bidens don't like business activity. They're always railing against businesses and blaming them for all that ails us. But it looks like there's no end to it.
Yeah, they don't like businesses. You know what else they don't like, Larry? And this will really, make you angry. They don't like profits. They think that the reason that we have inflation is because companies are making too much money. So if they just get rid of profits, we won't have an inflation problem. Of course, we won't have any businesses or jobs without profits. I think you're the one who used to say the profits are the mother's milk of the stock market. Let's be specific, by the way. I mean, I love Doug's report. Just last week, the Biden administration says we're not going to allow any more coal development in some of the richest coal areas in the world in states like Wyoming and Montana. I mean, come on. We get a third of our energy from coal around the world, and he's not going to allow development. Another one, he wants to regulate the internet for the first time, ever. He wants to basically require every single American car company to only make electric vehicles, even though most Americans don't want to buy an electric vehicle. I mean, I could go on and on, but these are real costs to families. I want to make one other quick point.
Guys, how many of you would buy an electric vehicle? Like, honestly, they're trying to do away with all these gas and diesel, and I'm thinking, guys, just leave it alone. Like, let people buy whatever they want to buy. Don't try to destroy the gas industry or diesel just because the climate control people are like, well, we've got to get rid of we've got to get rid of all these gases, and it's just destroying everything, and it's causing global warming and all. And I'm thinking, like, come on, man, like, let's get back to making everything good for everybody and not just a select few, because I feel like so many people have gotten to a place where they're like, well, we feel like our hands being forced that we've got to buy these vehicles. We've got to make sure that we're like, they're kind of taking away your choice. And I'm not a big fan of that, guys. I don't like that. I wish that it would get back to letting people make that decision.
If I could, Larry, I really applaud your opening statement about that just dreadful, not just dreadful speech, but an unpatriotic speech by our president. And you know these statistics, but I want to make sure your viewers do too. Under Donald Trump, lowest unemployment rate ever for black Americans, lowest poverty rate ever for black Americans, and the biggest income gains ever for black Americans. How dare they say he's a racist?
Yeah, well, it's not so much that Trump is a racist, although that is implied, I suppose. But it's that racism runs the country, that this is some kind of white supremacist Jim Crow country. That is not true. Blacks have done very, very well, as attested by the data that we put in the riff and you're echoing.
That's right.
And actually, Doug Holzig, and just on this subject, we went through Morehouse College grads. Their first year jobs is 12% pay, 12% higher pay than the national average. With a gilt-edged list of employers. So Biden is not only being racist on this, he's also wrong, factually. They're doing great. But, it would be nice if we didn't regulate all the small owner-operated businesses out of business, in the next 4 years under a second Biden administration. I think the regulatory story, Doug, is unheralded. It's the reason we love having you on the show. I don't think there's ever enough attention paid to the benefits of deregulation and the demerits of re-regulation. And this is where the Bidens have achieved unbelievable re-regulation across the board. I'll leave it to you to describe.
So, as you can see, so many people have had issues with Bidenomics, and they're like, okay, guys, what are we going to do? This whole Bidenomics, we cannot continue for another 4 years. Biden says one thing, and guess what? Everybody else is like, I don't know what you're looking at or what numbers you're running off, but we need to definitely see what we can do to, get back to what is normal and actually get inflation under control. A lot of people, they already know, guess what? Things are not doing good in our country and we need things to change. Things are not looking good for Biden. And yet again, he still consistently says, we've got the strongest economy in the world. Now, you guys, you let me know, but definitely, to me, that's just doesn't add up to what he's saying. And again, people are starting to see him for who he is. And we all know that if anything needs to change, we need maybe a new president. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But there's a lot of things happening, guys. And, Biden has made a lot of talks. And guess what? He's ready to debate Donald Trump. I didn't think he would. I really didn't think that he would try to debate him. But guess what? He is. So we all kind of know, hey, how's that battle going to be? Is it going to be something that we definitely say, okay, wow, is good? Or because what about the teleprompter? Is he going to have a teleprompter there? And, I don't know. There's a lot of big news happening, guys. And definitely want to make sure we keep you updated and let you know exactly what is going on. So we came across this, and I wanted to show you exactly what was happening because people are saying, okay, well, what's all this about? And guys, check this out. Here we have it right here on the screen.
Mr. President.
Senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, there has been a lot of attention and controversy attached to a recent action by the International Criminal Court, the ICC. The core purpose of the ICC is to prosecute the most serious international crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. I believe that it is very important that all of us support accountability for these crimes and the important mission of the ICC. Mr. President, last year, the ICC declared that President Vladimir Putin of Russia was in violation of international law and that he was a war criminal. The ICC issued arrest warrants for Putin and one of his senior officials, saying there are reasonable grounds to believe that they had committed the war crime of unlawful deportation and transfer of population for their systematic kidnapping of thousands and thousands of Ukrainian children.
Wow.
I
that's
supported
crazy.
the ICC decision. And in fact, that is the tip of the iceberg of what Putin has done in Ukraine. Putin started the most destructive war in Europe since World War II. He has bombed civilians and devastated civilian infrastructure, killing at least 30,000 civilians and displacing millions more. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian and Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded as a result of Putin's horrific invasion of Ukraine. On that occasion, when the ICC declared Putin a war criminal,
Price war.
the United States government welcomed the ICC decision. A White House spokesperson said, and I quote, "There is no doubt that Russia is committing war crimes and atrocities in Ukraine, and we have been clear that those responsible must be held accountable. The ICC prosecutor is an independent actor and makes his own prosecutorial decisions based on the evidence before him. We support accountability for perpetrators of war crimes," end of quote. That is what a U.S. government spokesman said in March 2023, and I agree. In my view, Mr. Putin is in fact a war criminal. Mr. President, we live in a world of increasing division, tension, and hostility. Around the globe, countries are dramatically increasing their military budgets. More countries are attempting to gain nuclear weapons and other dangerous weapon systems. It is in times like these that we most need international law. Without it, we will have an even more violent world where might makes right and war criminals can act with impunity. In recent years, the ICC has attempted to hold governments and political leaders accountable for crimes against humanity. That is what they do, and that is what they are supposed to do. All wars are terrible, and very often civilian casualties are unavoidable. But after the horrors of the Second World War, countries throughout the world came together to try to establish rules to govern the conduct of war and to limit civilian casualties. The ICC's role is to enforce these limits. Mr. President, yesterday the ICC prosecutor announced that he was requesting arrest warrants for 3 top Hamas leaders, including Yahya Sinwar, the group's leader in Gaza. To my mind, Sinwar and his Hamas accomplices are clearly war criminals. The horrific October 7th terrorist attack on Israel began this war and included the mass murder of 1,200 innocent men, women, and children, the taking of hundreds of hostages, and sexual violence against captives. These war crimes are well documented, and very few people would dispute the merits of those charges. Mr. President, the ICC prosecutor also asked for arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant. The ICC charges focus on the use of starvation of civilians as a method of war, as well as international attacks against the civilian population. Those are the charges. The use of starvation of civilians as a method of war, clearly a war crime, as well as intentional attacks against the civilian population. Specifically, the prosecutor says that Netanyahu is responsible for, quote, depriving civilians of objects indispensable to their survival, including willfully impeding relief supplies as provided for under the Geneva Conventions, end quote. Now, many people here in the Beltway in Washington have responded negatively to this decision from the ICC prosecutor. It seems that some folks here were comfortable with what the ICC did in terms of Putin and in terms of Sinwar, but not with Netanyahu. Some have argued that it is unfair to compare the democratically elected head of the Israeli government.
So Bernie Sanders pretty much, in a sense, is just kind of going back over the forth of things that, guess what, took place. Kind of really things that a lot of with Putin, a lot of different things, and I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. But we've got some breaking news, guys, and I don't know if you saw this, but this is pretty interesting news because a lot of people shop at Target. Guys, check this out.
Has begun. Starting today, Target is lowering prices on thousands of items in an effort to attract more customers during the summer months.
The idea is to help those dealing with the impacts of inflation while drawing shoppers away from rival Walmart. KTLA's Shelby Nelson joins us live and upload with the story.
Walmart.
Shelby.
Hey guys, that is a good. I always wait for something like that to let us know. If you had to shop somewhere, shop only at one place, which one would you choose? Walmart? Good old faithful Walmart or Target? Let us know down in the comments below, guys. But check this out. This is big. This is what even business people understand, how difficult it is for Americans dealing with inflation.
Sure, Micah, even though the rate of inflation is down, people are still paying a lot for many goods that are more than they were pre-pandemic. Now, as for that announcement that Target made of the 5,000 items they're going to be slashing their prices for, well, they say they've already slashed prices for 1,500 and counting. Walmart and Target, some of the biggest retailers, and they're competing for your business.
I'm glad they're going into competition even more.
With that means more deals. I think it's great. I think, they should. Just today, Target Corporation announced that it is slashing prices on about 5,000 items, from soda to milk, bread, produce, pet food, and diapers. I'll get even more here, I guess.
Our rents keep going up and I can't afford to survive anymore.
Upland resident Richard Martin now only shops at Walmart because he says it's all he can afford. Same goes for his mom, Donna, who came here for groceries. So we're looking at the bread right now, and I'm looking at the Oro wheat, 100% whole wheat, and here at Walmart, it's $4.24. So it's about 35 cents more for the Oro wheat here at this Target, but I do see a deal for Dave's Killer Bread. Some items at Walmart were less expensive. Bananas, on the other hand, were cheaper at Target.
I was at Walmart not too long ago, and I felt like I spent more on all the things I had bought than I do here.
The price wars between retail giants are giving consumers an edge. So why the sudden cuts to rake in customers? Our KTLA business and consumer expert David Lazarus weighs in.
What we're seeing right now is basically a response to years of high inflation. So for many consumers, especially those living paycheck to paycheck, this is an untenable situation, and they are cutting back on their spending. And that is what's freaking out retailers. Already Walmart has announced its own aggressive price cuts, and to compete, Target has now stepped up with a new multi-pronged price cut strategy.
Inflation slightly cooled last month after being unexpectedly high from January to March, while consumer prices rose 0.3% from March to April. Laz says it's all about getting you in the door, even if these big box retailers have to take a loss on certain items.
Also, for the big boys like Target and Walmart, volume is the key. So it's not about making a fast score on each individual sale, but rather having lots and lots of those sales, and that adds up cumulatively over time.
And who knows, you might go in for some groceries and end up leaving with some shoes or maybe a handbag in my case. That's ultimately the goal of these big box retailers. Now, Lass says make sure to shop around and go bargain hunting if you really do want to find those cheaper prices. This is likely going to be lasting through the summer, and if you do shop at smaller retailers, they might not have as much wiggle room to compete. That's the very latest here in Upland. I'm Shelby Nelson, KTLA 5 News.
All right, Shelby.
And that, guys, is where so many people, they're like, hey, we need a break. We need some kind of discount. We need some way to save some money because, guys, this is literally high inflation. People ain't got the money, and definitely going to help being able to save here and there. Guys, we've got some other updated information. Don't know if you've seen it, but this is where we bring you the most updated news because this is where things have taken a turn and Biden offering condolences. Now, guys, check this out. This is some pretty big news right here.
Retired U.S. Navy captain, search and rescue expert Armin Kurdian, and the foreign desk editor-in-chief Lisa Daftari. Thank you both for coming on. We're going to get to the Iranian president in a minute, but I want to begin with Biden's take on the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants. He said the following. Watch.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
No equivalence, he keeps saying, Armin, right? And that's the whole thing is he's not calling. We keep hearing this, but we're not getting the calls for surrender. We're not getting get those hostages out and we'll talk. None of that.
It's very interesting, Trace. There's three things that jumped out at me about this declaration. First of all, it talks about a conflict between Israel and the Palestinian state, and Palestine is not recognized.
Right.
Number two, these Palestine armed groups, which they call Hamas, an internationally recognized terrorist organization. And third, finally, why did it take them 37 years to start indicting Hamas leaders and like Hezbollah for lobbing rockets and missiles into populated centers of Israel?
Yeah, I mean, all good points here. You know, the thing is, so Biden is against the warrant for Netanyahu. He came out, he said he's against this thing. George Clooney is a huge Biden supporter. His wife, Amal Clooney, who is a human rights lawyer, a very well-known one, is the one who instigated this International Criminal Court's warrant, saying the following, quoting here, Amal Clooney, wife of actor George Clooney, was among the experts who advised the ICC in seeking arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar over alleged war crimes. It's interesting how this is all playing out here, and you're like, what's going on here, Lisa?
Absolutely, and it's the pivot that Biden has made in recent months along with the State Department that has given the ICC the gall to come out and make this statement. It is that daylight that has been created between the United States and Israel that gave them that brazen move. And to make that announcement on CNN, I mean, you have to be so cowardly not to make the trip to Israel, not to do your investigation. And I'll tell you, for anyone who cares about a ceasefire or peace between these two sides, they would not come out and do this. The sooner the world can call out radicalism and terrorism, the sooner we will get to the bottom of this. To equate Israel and Hamas is to not want peace.
It's a little bit baffling for me. Moving on to the Biden administration, the offering of condolences for the Iranian president who died in the helicopter crash. Here's Matt Miller, the State Department spokesperson, being questioned about this.
So condolences on behalf of the United States government.
I'm not even sure why you're offering condolences if this guy was as bad as you say he was.
Because we regret any loss of life. We don't want to see people die in helicopter crashes. It doesn't change our view of him.
Aren't you sending contradictory messages?
Absolutely not.
A condolence is an expression of sympathy, Armin. This guy was a horror show.
I'm really trying not to laugh here, but I suppose it's consistent with U.S. policy because back in 1994, Clinton offered condolences when Kim Jong-il or Kim Il-sung died.
Kim Il-sung, yeah.
Yeah, so it's... Are we going to offer condolences that we killed, Osama bin Laden or other terrorists were blown up? I mean, seriously, we're the United States of America. We don't offer condolences when people who are who have blood of 5,000 people on their hands.
Yeah. Biden, clear go. This is the last one. The Hill writes the following, quoting here, the death of Iran's president could push it over the edge. Raisi's death comes at a sensitive time in Iran's domestic situation. What comes next in the country of 90 minutes? I got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, we're going to have a different tyrant, same tyranny. That's really the short of it.
Yeah.
They will have some election in which their 12 members of their expediency council will choose another terrorist, another butcher to take his place. This doesn't change the regime, and that's the issue.
Lisa, Armin, thank you both.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube
that
page.
Really is crazy, just because, number one, people are like, man, this was drastic, this was big, this was out of nowhere, and again, the condolences, they're like, whoa, we are sending mixed signals. And so people are kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? What's the next move? And guys, there's no telling where it's going to go from here. But we definitely wanted to bring you some sort of news tonight, guys. Again, I apologize it was so late. We literally worked till 9 o'clock. Our job site was about an hour away, and we definitely wanted to make sure that we come here and we show you exactly what is happening. But you guys truly are amazing. Thank you for your love and support, guys. We couldn't do this without you. There's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of information. People have been asking about stimulus checks. You're talking about May stimulus checks. So we done our research. We looked into what they're saying from stimulus checks coming May 2024, coming in the upcoming days. All of these articles have presented information talking about coming towards the end of May, and that is approaching very, very quickly. So many people have been saying, well, could it happen this week? Could it happen next week? So we've come upon the information that Biden actually has worked with the U.S. federal government excuse me, to provide updated information for the fourth stimulus check. The U.S. federal government has worked with the IRS with all the state budget surpluses where they've got additional amount of money that they are actually presenting back to the American citizens due to economic inflation rates that have risen across the country, that have put seniors, disabled, fixed income beneficiaries at a financial bind, a financial challenge that they cannot pay their bills. The rent, the mortgage, property taxes have increased as well, throwing several millions of Americans, including seniors, into a place of eviction, losing their home, moving out to the streets. We've seen a 15% increase in seniors over the last year lose their homes and get evicted because of rental rates that have risen, property taxes, and not only that, but how inflation has affected the utility bills, electric bills. There was actually a family it was Kentucky, I believe, that their electric bill was like $700 a month. And again, putting people in a position to where they don't have any other choice. They're either going to pay it or they're not going to be able to have electricity. The lady stated, we will do everything we can to try to work with the company, but this is something that has put us in a financial bind to where we don't really know what bills to pay. Now, we've seen several videos, several comments of people saying there are a lot of changes that got to be made, and we know that things have to change. So Bidenomics came in and said that the Inflation Reduction Act has went down tremendously, that inflation is going down, but to consumers, daily average American citizens, senior citizens, especially disabled and fixed income beneficiaries who are dealing with the high cost of inflation, are awaiting a stimulus check to hit their bank accounts. Now, with several articles and information, all of the information that's been presented has stated this, that while they're working with the U.S. federal government, that the IRS guarantees financial aid to American families that are hardest hit by economic strain due to high inflation costs. These checks will be going out by the end of May. Now, they did not present with a actual date, but they did say that these checks would come through a direct deposit or a physical check. Now, you and I both know that as direct deposits are more instantly sent out and they're faster to get, there are physical checks that do take longer to print out, establish all the mail, get all that set up, and hopefully your address is right, all the information is right, so that you would be getting a physical check. Now, we've looked high and low for all the information, updated information, and due to economic strains, seniors need help, elderly need help, and that is exactly what is going on. But we did want to show you guys some more updated information.
Folks, I want to say, Master Sergeant, I want to thank you for your service and for introduction of me. I appreciate it very much. And congratulations on your promotion. I know your whole family is so proud. You know, when my son, Bo, was promoted to major in Iraq, I happened to be there shortly afterwards. And I said, now you're a field-grade officer. He said, I have no illusions, Dad, who runs the Army. Those folks with stripes on their shoulders. And you do. Well, thank you. Look, I want to thank Senator Maggie Hassan, Senator Jeannie Shaheen, and Congresswoman Annie Custer for their work on behalf of veterans. And former Governor John Lynch is here with his wife, Dr. Susan, who their friendship for years has meant a great deal to me and to my family. And Secretary McDonough, thank you for your leadership, because it really matters. To all the veterans and families that are here today, I want to say thank you. We could never fully thank you for all the sacrifices you made. Only 1% of the American population is risk everything to defend our other 99% of us. 1%, that's it. We owe you. We owe you big. I've long said, Lucy got in trouble for saying it, that about 30 years ago, that America has a lot of obligations, but only one truly sacred obligation. Sacred obligation. And that's to prepare those we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they come home, and if they don't come home, care for their families. Nearly 2 years ago, we took a giant step toward fulfilling that obligation when I fought for and signed the PACT Act. It was one of the most significant laws ever. It surprised me anybody voted against it, but a bunch did. We set up to help millions of veterans who are exposed to toxic substances during their services. And today, I'm proud to announce the VA just granted its 1 millionth PACT Act claim. 1 million. A major milestone, providing $5.7 million in benefits to 890,000 veterans and their families so far in hand, including 3,000 here in New Hampshire. It matters because too many service members have not only braved the battlefield, but they also, while breathing in toxic fumes and from burn pits and other means. You know, pits as big as a football field, 100 yards long, 10 feet deep, that incinerate all the wastes of war. Everything from tires to chemicals to jet fuel and so much more. So much more. Smoke thick with poison, spreading through the air into the lungs of many thousands of troops who lived and worked near them in one of those burn pits. I know, I saw them in Iraq and Afghanistan, and many times in and out, you could smell it in the air. And when our troops came home, many of the fittest, best trained warriors we've ever seen, we saw like in 9/11 fighters, for firefighters. They were incredibly helpful in making my case, because what happened? Look at all those firefighters that died of cancer as a consequence of being exposed to those toxic fumes. Headaches, numbness, dizziness, trouble breathing, cancer, brain cancer. Folks, you suffered long enough. You shouldn't have to prove that your illness came from their service. But thanks to the PACT Act, you don't have to prove it now. My son Bo was one of those veterans. So this is personal to me and my family and to his family and his children. And so many of yours. So I took office, I determined that come hell or high water, we're going to protect the heroes and protect our nation. We learned a terrible lesson after Vietnam, as those harmful effects of Agent Orange took years to manifest and left too many veterans without the care they deserved, because they had to prove that every illness they had was a consequence of Agent Orange, which is often too hard to do. That's why I co-sponsored Agent Orange Act as a senator way back in 1991 to support veterans exposed to toxic substances in Vietnam. That's why I pushed to pass the PACT Act so today's veterans don't suffer the same painful, frustrating delays and denials. That's why we continue to work around the clock to get veterans benefits they deserve and get them now. Many of you and your family members and advocates fought for years to make this happen. Folks literally slept on the Capitol steps the week we were fighting this out in the Senate to get it done. They literally slept on the steps. After 41 Republican senators, a vast majority of that caucus, voted against the bill, against expanding health care for disabled veterans, New Hampshire's congressional leaders worked hard to push it through, and the senators and congresswomen stepped up. Since then, we've launched the biggest outreach campaign in VA history to make sure veterans in every state, territory, and area know what the law does. First, it expands eligibility for VA health care. Today, toxic exposed veterans who served during any conflict, not just the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, can enroll. Over 145,000 veterans are now getting care as a result of that one change. The law also provides regular toxic exposure screenings to catch problems early when they can be dealt with. It expands access to disability benefits, including monthly payments for folks who have fallen sick. We've made those benefits effective immediately. Immediately.
So that's the thing, guys. So we understand there's a lot of veterans on this channel. There's a lot of people that were war, and we appreciate your service. We do appreciate everything you guys have done, and this is where he's talking about you don't have to wait no more. These are actual benefits that if you're sick, if you need help due to other unforeseen circumstances, you're going to be able to get the help you need, and that's a positive thing because so many people always have to play the wait game and all this insurance game and all this craziness just to get the help that, again, if you provided a service, you should be taken care of regardless of the situation. But there again, you know, we wanted to really kind of show you things are moving in a positive direction, but at the same time, when will things actually get done? This is where we literally understand things need to change, guys, and we know as well as others that I don't feel like we can handle another 4 years, but that is up to you guys. And I do appreciate you watching. Please stay tuned for more information. We're going to be bringing you a ton of information, guys, based off a lot of things that are happening. Now, I do understand that while we've been in inflation, we've been through the pandemic, inflation right now has been terrible, there are other ways to get things actually better. And there's a lot of people in the comments just saying, yeah, but guys, you know exactly. And we wanted to keep you updated on what John B. Larson says, because when it comes to Social Security, Congress, we definitely always want to stay updated on that news. But we do appreciate you watching. Sorry again it was so late. But guys, stay safe. We will have a wonderful night. And God bless every one of you guys. And we'll see you in the next one.